What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. This is season 5, episode 4, and Victoria, or Tori, is
Yes.
here today. Thank you so much for doing this, Tori. This is going to be a blast. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Totally. I want to get deep into the new record and everything. We're going to talk about that. But since I don't know you, I like to get to know my guests
Yeah.
and, learn more about you. So can you tell me, what is your, earliest musical memory?
Earliest musical memory. Okay, well, both of my parents are musicians, so I'm sure tucked away in there somewhere is all of us singing together, because my dad very much so forced us to do that. But I also remember, from a really young age, convincing my younger sister that she did not want to be a singer because I was going to be a singer and that she should work at Walmart so that she could sell Barbie dolls. So I think that's probably, I was probably like 4 or 5 at that point.
Okay. Tell me more about the family. That's really interesting because I'm the black sheep of my family.
Oh, really? The only musician?
Yeah. So tell me more about that because I had to find my way and find my love of music.
Wow.
So tell me how that transpired with you guys.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, so both of my parents are musicians. My dad plays piano, saxophone, guitar, the works. My mom plays piano and sings. Well, they both sing actually. But my mom's a music teacher. My dad was like a music minister for a good chunk of my childhood. So yeah, I think that we just were always kind of doing music together. And then I have 2 younger siblings, Hallie and Noah. Noah's actually in my band. And so he plays live with me and records with me a lot. And then my sister, Hallie, is also a musician. She's phenomenal and will often join us for gigs when she can scoot in. So it's a fun time.
That's awesome. You got your own Partridge band.
We really do. We really do. Yeah, it's fun. We get to help each other out with specifically the siblings. Like I get to help them out with their own projects, but because both of them make music on their own too, but then they are also a part of Victoria all the time. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What does your brother play in the band?
In the band, he plays keys.
Okay.
But he also is a really great guitar player and vocalist, songwriter, all of that. That's Noah Graham Elliott. So for anyone who wants to look his stuff up, he has some really incredible music out there.
Nice. That's awesome. Do you guys, is it like the holidays are super musical in the house with the whole family getting together? I always wanted that as part of my life.
Yeah. I wish I had this video to show you. It is musical, but not in the way not in a cozy way. Like last year, my parents were here because they live in Ohio. So they came to North Carolina and stayed with me for Christmas. And my dad has a video somewhere of us singing karaoke, Broadway karaoke at the top of our lungs on Christmas night. So not great, but music nonetheless.
Okay.
So
that sounds fun, man.
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a good time.
Well, so when you were growing up, what do you remember the first record that you heard that really resonated with you that made you want to be a musician? Do you remember hearing a specific record?
Yeah, and I wish I had a cooler answer than this, but it was Clay Aiken's first record.
Look at that.
You know who Clay Aiken is?
Of course I do. American Idol?
Yeah. And fun fact. Okay, so he's a politician now, apparently.
What?
Yes, he's a politician now. And I was working in this little bakery in Asheboro, North Carolina. and he came in there on like one of his runs, I guess. I don't know, whatever politicians do. And he ordered grits. And I almost said, Clay Aiken, I know who you are, but I didn't because he didn't seem to really want to talk, which, I
Oh
wouldn't
man.
either if I were a politician. So,
Right. That's funny. Okay, so like just based on knowing like and hearing the new record and hearing your music and everything, it's interesting because I feel like when I was listening to the record, okay, let me take you on a journey really quick.
okay, please.
First of all, thank you for sending it ahead of time because I
Oh, yeah.
have adored listening to it. And like all summer since I've had it, like going back and forth, picking my kid up from camp, like we'd be listening to it. And she's like, "Can you play that one song again? Can you play that one song again?" But what I hear like in you and in your music, like is definitely like a soulful,
Mhm.
harkens back to that. I mean, now Clay did that a bit, on American Idol a little bit, but not in the way that you exude it. Like I feel like
Yeah,
you have this natural propensity to that style of music. Where
yeah.
did that come from? Like if not Clay Aiken, where did that come from?
Yeah, that wasn't Clay again. My dad loved gospel music
Oh
when we
yeah,
were
yeah.
growing up. And so, and like I said, he was in music ministry for like years of my childhood, and we were at church all the time. And so I think that that was my experience with music for the first like probably 10 years of my life was gospel music. And so I think definitely like the soul that I do have and the harmonies and all of that was really influenced by that. I would say primarily. And it was kind of that style of writing even that I kept coming back to even in adulthood.
Okay. Did you like early on in your childhood like gravitate towards songwriting, and like how did you end up getting into that, and how did you find the courage? Because it's interesting for a lot of people who are songwriters, including me, like
Yeah.
it took some courage to like take that step and that leap to try to
Yeah.
create something out of nothing. So like how did that transpire and materialize with you?
Um yeah, I think that before I even really knew that I liked to sing or play music, I liked to write songs primarily. I mean, like I would force my siblings to perform little like musicals and plays that I wrote. And then as I got older into the angsty teen years, um, it was just like my outlet, I think, for processing emotion um and then by the time that I was like 16 or 17, even though I was writing really terrible songs, I thought that they were the best thing ever. And so I was just really excited to share them with anyone who would listen. And so by the time that I started writing songs that were actually pretty vulnerable and like, okay, this is scary to say, I wrote this and I want to know what you think of it. I had already been blindly confident for like 4 years. So I
Nice.
was kind of like in the practice by then, by the time it was, time to like take the scary step.
Okay. That's so interesting. I mean, I love that about that. I mean, it does take a bit of resilience to do that thing and
Yeah.
like have and be able to put yourself out there. Um, let me go back because I wanted to remember to say this to you when you were talking
Mhm.
about, writing and arranging like harmonies and where that stuff
Yeah.
comes from. Because the whole gospel thing, like I freaking love gospel music and I
Yeah.
love the B3 and listen. I could listen to like
Good.
gospel B3 stuff like all
Yeah.
day. And piano, like the voicings and the
Mhm.
leading tones and how that kind of piano style works. I love it so much. But for like vocal harmonies and like the stuff on the new record, all those like close harmonies and how you created like there was points where there was counterpoint between
Yeah.
the voices and stuff. So have you like studied, like, did you go to school for music? Did you like, or have you been so immersed in, because like some people just have it in them and like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, what you're doing is so hip. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't know what you were doing when you wrote that. Like, how did that stuff, like, do you spend a lot of time on that from record to record, like working on, specific arrangements for the vocals and for the music itself?
Yeah. So I didn't go to school for music, but I took lessons all throughout growing up, specifically classical piano lessons. So that, I mean, theory, I know, but like, I don't sit down and think, okay, this is the exact arrangement with my vocals that I'm going to do. Um, Specifically with this record, it was like I had already gone in the studio and arranged the songs with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I recorded all of my vocals at home, because we have a setup here. And so I just would like lock myself in our little studio room and just try different things out. And I think that even what Charlie did with the arrangement, um, gave me a lot of freedom within a like set within a set boundary,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of allowed me to go in a specific direction with the vocals. So it's not like I had mapped it out in my head specifically. I thought, oh, this is what this moment feels like to me, and then I would just layer and layer and layer from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause there's some really cool note choices melodically on the record that are like certain tension notes that are rubbing
Yeah.
things, and like, what one of my favorite moments on the whole record is probably, from Over My Shoulder, is that last chorus when you're repeating that line when you
Oh yeah.
drop way low in your register.
Huh.
I love that because it's like you can feel you getting on the mic and like
Yeah.
using the mic as an instrument, and like, and it just, that note feels so greasy and like perfect for that moment. Like, do you have like moments when you were recording that stuff? Because that's a brilliant idea, by the way, for any singer. I should take a note from that in terms of like next time I do a record, it's like I'll do the vocals in my own house, like,
Yeah.
because you feel more comfortable. Like, I know Theo
Yeah.
Katzman did that for his last record and stuff, but did you have moments where you're like, oh dang, that was pretty hip? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not touching that. Even if you might have felt like I could have sang that better, you're like, that fits.
Yeah, I think that not with the lead vocal, which is what you're talking about right now, but I'm pretty critical of my lead vocals, and so I have to. My husband Ethan, who is a sound engineer, oftentimes what I'll have him do is say, I did, 4 takes of this verse. Can you just listen and comp it for me because I can't hear it anymore? But when it
Uh-huh.
comes to background vocals, there were several times where I was like, I don't even care. That was the vibe. And like, did I hit it perfectly? No, but that was the vibe.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, it feels that way. It's so great, like when you hear a record that feels that organic. And I hate to use that term because it's so lame, but like, but it does feel. Do you know what I mean? Though, I mean, it feels like, it's like when I listen. One of my favorite records of all time is Robert Palmer's "Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley,"
Oh yeah.
and that whole album and the whole vibe of that record just feels like, from song to song, it's like
Yeah.
perfection. And like, I don't get that way about a lot of records, but sonically and the performances on this album, like, that's why I meant every word what I said in that Instagram post. Like,
Mhm.
I want everybody to hear this because it's truly a gorgeous album from start to finish. You should be so proud. I'm sure you are, but like, it's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
It's so good. But well, let me, before we go there, because I want to talk about that stuff, but I want to hear about your first band and your first gig, and like, how, did you have a good community where you grew up with, of musicians and like people that you could hook up with to play music?
Yeah, I pretty much only played music in church, in a church or religious faith community setting until I was like 18. Um, and so really I wasn't playing my own music that I was writing with a band until I moved away from my hometown and ended up in North Carolina. And um, I became friends with a lot of the, I say kids, I mean, we were young adults at the time, but they were all going to School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. And so we would just spend like every evening together playing each other's songs. And that was how, I mean, that's where Victoria Victoria started. And so I've been playing under that name for like 6 years now, I think, maybe 7 years. No,
Okay.
6 years probably. Um, so yeah, and I've had so many different people play with me, but that is like my first band was Victoria Victoria, and I have been in quite a few since then, but it's the one that has stuck. So
Okay. That's
yeah.
pretty awesome. And so how did you decide on the name? So was it like, if I do just Victoria, it's gonna be too Madonna-y?
Yeah.
Like, how did you decide on that? I mean, it's hip, it's cool.
Yeah. Um, well, okay. So my name is actually Victoria, but I've only ever gone by Tori. Like my parents only ever called me Tori. And my friend Daniel Paget, who is also an incredible musician, and he was living near me at the time, had written this song about this girl, not about me, but about another girl named Victoria. And one of the lines in the song was Victoria, Victoria, and he'd repeat it over and over again.
Mhm.
And I said, if I ever have a band, I'll just name my band Victoria Victoria because it's like first name Victoria, last name Victoria. And then now people ask me all the time if I went off of like Victor Victoria, which I didn't. But I mean, I'm honored if they think that's what I'm going for too. So
Okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
how it came about.
Yeah, that town, I feel like Winston-Salem is like, it's a pretty big music scene, isn't it? Like,
Yeah. I
I mean,
mean, there are so many musicians, incredible musicians that live here. Even just in the neighborhood that I'm in, like across the street is a friend of mine who plays guitar and produces music, and he's worked on some projects here at our studio. And then the street down, a couple guys live over there, and I'm in a progressive jazz band with them. Like there are just people all over within walking distance that are just really solid
yeah.
musicians.
I feel like didn't Ben Folds, I think Ben Folds 5 originally started in
Oh
Winston-Salem.
yeah. Uh-huh.
There, I mean,
Yeah.
there's several bands that came out of that scene, and I've heard good things about Charleston, the scene in Charleston as well. I've never been there. The joke in my house, Tori, is I always tell my wife that I wanna retire in Charleston, South Carolina, and she's like, "Fool, you've never even been there. What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Everybody says it's rad, man. Like, it seems like a great place to retire."
Yeah, I've been
So,
a couple of times. It's
yeah.
cute, very cute.
So how did you end up hooking up with Charlie? Like, how did you guys meet, and where did that come from?
Yes. So one of my good friends who did this whole record with us, Stephen Price, um, incredible producer, mix engineer, sound engineer. I mean, he's awesome. So I did my first two projects with him. And he had called me and said, I have an idea because he had been working with Charlie on a few different projects. He did Sam's album, and I can't
Mm,
remember what else. They did a few different things together. So he had called me. Of course, I knew who Charlie was. And my husband's a guitar player, so he like would talk about Charlie. And Steven said, what if the three of us did an album together? And I was like, I would do it. And so then he was like, well, let me talk to him and see. And so then I didn't hear anything from Steven for like a month. And I would just text Steven and be like, did you talk to Charlie? Did you talk to Charlie? And he was like, yeah, like I talked to him, like, we'll see what he says. Da, da, da. So Steven said, write a couple of songs and send demos, and then we'll see. So I wrote 2 songs, sent the demos, and then Charlie was like, yeah, let's get in there. We'll see what happens. And then by the end of the second day, Charlie said, can you write a full album? And so then I wrote the album. I wrote the lyrics and melody in like a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then the 3 of us hammered it out. That's how it happened. It's like
nuts.
wild to me.
That is nuts. I mean, and he told me, I talked to him a while back when he was like, hey, you should check out, Tori's music, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, I played, guitar and I played bass on it. I was like, did you play drums on it? Because I love hearing him play drums. And he's like, no, I didn't do that. But I'm like, I'm sure Tori would have been fine if you would have played drums on it because you're a great drummer. But tell me who all played on this record.
Okay. Yes. So funny enough, Charlie did play drums on it initially. Oh wait, did I freeze?
No, you're good. You're good. It's a little choppy, but you're fine.
Okay, great. So Charlie did play drums initially on the entire album. And then Steven had started doing some editing, and Charlie was like, this isn't good enough. We need a blah, blah, blah. So I think what we ended up doing first, I think that we brought Sam in for organ. No, we brought in Corey Fonville first for drums, which he plays with Butcher Brown. Incredible drummer, musician. So he came in, and then George Sluppick did a couple of songs, drums. And then Sam came in and did organ. And I think that's it. And then Charlie played everything else. I played keys on most of the songs, not piano, but Rhodes, Wurlitzer. And yeah, that was it.
Killing band.
A killer lineup. I'm really hoping that I'm not forgetting anybody, but I don't think that I am. That was it.
So how many days in the studio with all this, like all said and done?
A lot of days. So I mean, in the studio, not very many days, I guess. It's just that we would like come to a point where we're like, the record's done. So like we had played everything. Charlie had played like this little cocktail kit, and then we were like, it's not done. So then like 2 months later, we came back in. 2 months later, we said, okay, we need to do this. So we came back in. So all in all, like from start to finish, it was probably like 9 months, but not that much time in the studio. Like the studio time itself was kind of a whirlwind. I think it was just like the decision making and figuring out how to move forward with everything, because it really was just this like dropped from out of nowhere project that happened. And we kind of like learned the songs along the way and figured out the vibe along the way, and it was really cool.
That's probably why it feels so good.
Yeah.
Because it's not like overthought in a way, like when the performances and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Do you find, you can tell me if you're like, I'm the opposite of that, but like I find the infancy of a song, like the sooner you can get it, you can get a group of people in a studio and like hash it out, like without overthinking it, the better the performances and the better the feel. Like, do you feel that way about that as well?
Yeah, I think with the band that I was playing with, totally. Absolutely. I think that if I had been playing with like if I had done this record by myself, then I would have needed more time. Just knowing like where I'm at as a musician. But I think that was kind of the cool thing about this is, especially with Charlie and with Steven. I mean, Charlie has been doing this for so long. He's the GOAT. And so it's like to be able to like go along on that ride and watch someone who is so skilled, such a master at what he does. It's like, yeah, capture like Charlie's first and second instinct of what to do, and then we're gonna build the song around that. So yeah.
I feel like like you were just saying, his instincts are usually like spot on for how something should be played or how something should sound like. And I think I told him I want to have him on again specifically to talk about rhythm playing.
Yeah.
Just bass and rhythm guitar, like no frill, and we're not spilling the beans on anything that's like shreddy McGee. I just want to like talk about pocket, and like that's what this album has too. Like it's just like, even when you shift meter and stuff,
isn't it wild? It is the most satisfying on Wayside when it goes from the verse into the chorus. It's just like, oh, it's like it scratches something in your brain. And it's like, oh, yes, this is what I've always wanted to hear and didn't know I needed.
100%. And you know what? I would even equate that to, it's as good as when you listen to Pink Floyd's Money go from 7 to 4/4 and it's in the solo section. It feels that great. It's like, it doesn't even feel out of place, and it doesn't even feel like it comes out of left field. It's like it's natural.
Yeah,
so creepy.
It is creepy how that happens. It is creepy. Yeah.
Let's talk about that song in particular. So so how did that happen? How did the meter change happen?
So I had written it with the meter change, but it was not seamless. And I think that I had even had like, it changed again in the middle of the chorus and then went back into it. And that was actually the first song that we worked on. And so when we started it, I was like, I don't really know what to do with this. And Charlie was like, okay, well, we need to cut half of this out. And I was like, okay. So he like polished it up and everything. But yeah, I think that like, not to go like back into what I learned making this record, but another thing too was that I learned so much about not overdoing a cool idea because it's a cool idea. And there were so many times I was like, this is it. And then Charlie would be like, rein that in, rein it in. And then Charlie's done the same thing. He has been so gracious to sit in with my band, who did not record on this record, and like go over the songs with us. And we're all, in our 20s. And for him to sit down with young musicians and say, the feel is so much more important than the cool idea that you're trying to pull off. And I think it like the meter change is the perfect example where I had been like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I was like, look at what I know how to do. And let's have a 7. And Charlie was like, no. So yeah, that was that's one of my favorite songs on the record, I think.
Oh, Tori, it's brilliant. It really is. It truly is. I mean, when you put this single out, I put a thing on Instagram saying this is one of the most brilliantly written things that I've heard in a long time. And it's crazy because there's so much, like, as a consumer of music right now, like we're just like bombarded with stuff.
It's true.
But every now and again a full record comes out that it's not like there's one good song on it or two good songs on it. It's like you got it, like the whole record is just so fun. It's like a whole journey. And like that song in particular, the first time I heard that and I heard the meter change, I'm like, ooh,
Hello.
Yeah, hello there. And it felt so good. And then, you know, I think that ultimately, like the idea of like learning from the goat and learning how to like not crush a good idea or not like overdo it. What is the thing that you learned then? Like like extrapolate something from that, like moving forward as a songwriter, how will you stop yourself from overdoing a cool idea, do you think?
Um, well, I'll probably stop myself like 1 out of 10 times because I'm still young and learning. But I think that yeah, I think that I really just learned through all of this to look at the motive of why I'm doing something and why I'm making a musical choice. Um, because even like when you look at like Charlie can play it all, and he is, I mean, he might not say this, but it's like the thinking behind it is, how are people going to feel when they hear this? And so much of what I had been writing beforehand was like sensationalized in a way, and like,
Mm,
how can I stand out the most from everyone who's doing everything? What's the thing that's going to like shock people? What's the thing that's going to impress people the most? And yeah, so much of what I was able to even just observe is just recognizing that like just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should.
mhm,
And what's going to make the music like feel like something that people want to listen to. You know, there's a reason why the classic albums are the classic albums, and not that we just want to recreate those over and over again. Like it's fun to bring in new aspects, but just for the sake of like being cool, it's just not going to turn out very well. And then what ends up happening is like I've got folders full of ideas that I've recorded, and I go back and listen to them, and I'm like, I'm so glad I never released these because they're trash.
uh,
So
do you use like voice memos and stuff to record ideas? Like how do you
yeah.
generally, and what's like your most creative space, Tori? Because like for me, randomly, I always come up with my best ideas in the shower. I don't know why.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I have several of my friends say the same thing, actually. Mine
Really?
are in the car, which I have to be careful with because I actually have gotten, I think, 2 speeding tickets writing songs. Um, so yeah, but I think that it on walks, like when I'm walking my dog, in the car, honestly, really anything that requires me to like not um, be on my phone, which is kind of sad to say that that's like such a distracting factor from creating art. But you know, like my work email, I can't check that, can't check my texts. I'm driving, and that just kind of tends to be when the juices are flowing. So I'll just keep my voice memo recording the whole time I'm going.
Yeah, that's smart. Speeding tickets for the sake of art. There you go.
There we go.
There's your next record title.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I had Oliver Wood from the Wood Brothers was on here. We were talking about that, about like how when you are distracted, when those
Yeah.
different sides of your brain are distracted doing some mindless activity, that's when the creativity starts to like pour
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, it's really strange. It's like amazing to me. It's like so interesting how our brains can like decipher and split like that.
Yeah.
And keep you safe so you're not going to crash your car, but like be able to come up with some melodic idea. So when you do that, Tori, when you have a like a voice memo that you're really pumped about,
Hmm.
do you generally like go with that melody home and sit at the piano and find the harmony in terms of like where it sat, like where your voice felt good to be singing it? Because like I'm sure, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like do you usually do that where you kind of goof with the key of a tune to find where it fits your voice the best? Because your range seems like it's so big. It seems like you could do whatever.
Wow. Thanks for saying that. I feel like my range is what I'm always working on. My range is my problem child, but yeah, I play with the range. I think that a lot of times when I start singing something, I will find I'll work on the key before I've even sat down at an instrument. And so I'll find where it sits best in my voice and then write from there. Um, a lot of times, by the time that I actually have the time to sit down and map out a song, I've already written it in my
Mhm.
voice memos. Like most of the songs that I demoed out, like Hardware Store, that's on the album. I literally wrote that in the parking lot of Ace Hardware here in Winston Salem. The entire song I wrote in the so I just have like I found the voice memo the other day of just and I like found what key and then I wrote the whole thing and then figured it out from there. So yeah, I think that finding the key, I just will figure out what key I was singing it in by the time I was done with my voice memo.
Right, right. That stuff seems to be so like, people overlook that, like, in terms of, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, if you find, a little ditty, if you find a lick or something that you just have, like, this sprout, this thing that just grows, and you're like, "I can't change it now because
I
like" do you
know.
know what I mean? Like, that stuff is kinda silly, and I always thought about, like, you kinda have to do that with music, and you kinda have to do that with your lyrics too. You gotta put them in an octagon and let them fight
Yeah,
it out and see who wins.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
did you do that a lot on this record? Like, you're like, I gotta let go of this line, or I gotta figure out a way to get this line in because it's better than this line, but it's not working, you know?
So the one that the like fight to the death lyrically happened the most on was Over My Shoulder because I also had I can't remember how I had structured it, but the verses were like twice as long as they are now. There was
Mm,
like a whole nother melodic phrase in between that we ended up cutting. And that song is really personal to me. So it was I I mean now I'm like, yeah, that's great. But at the time, I remember thinking, like, how am I going to get what I want to say lyrically in here? And then it ended up being fine. I think even a lot of times, whenever I start to feel anxiety over the lyrics, I just remember that there will always be time for me to put lyrics that I'm holding dear in that moment that aren't going to make the cut for this song. They can always make it into another song.
yeah.
I write for um well right now I guess I'm writing for one other band. And so a lot of times I'll just be like, here's my lyric bucket. These are the discarded ones that didn't make the cut last album. What can we use this album? So it ends
Yeah.
up okay.
Do you like that process of, like, reorganizing an idea, or do you find it a little bit, like, obtrusive in terms of the creative process?
Yeah, I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Mhm.
I If I'm doing it on my own, it's more doable. I get very irritable if I'm co-writing with someone and we have to go back in and comb through. I don't know. I think it's because of my lack of control, maybe. Good thing I'm in therapy. But
Right.
yeah.
Amen.
So, amen. Amen and amen.
Mm,
So yeah, it's tedious, but obviously something that needs to be done.
yeah. Are you already starting to work on new stuff? Like, are you kind of on the heels of this? Or you're like, man, I'm juiced up now. This is feeling good. I have a direction that I want to go. Like, or maybe you already had that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had another album written before this one that
Shut up.
I did. Um
Wow.
and but I knew that if I was going to work with Charlie, I wanted to write songs with Charlie in mind. And so most of these were songs that I had written thinking, okay, I'm going to make an album with Charlie Hunter. So I still have like a whole album that I started demoing out last weekend, actually, here at my house. And so I'm just going to kind of work on that as I can. Charlie and I actually did another song together that I can't tell you what it is or when it will be out, but it will be out in the universe at some point.
All right.
This album. So yeah, working on some other stuff, and then I'm currently recording another album with a band called Posture. So we're in it as far as next steps,
Nice.
making moves.
Nice. Are you playing any keys and stuff in that band? Or are you just singing in that band?
Oh no. If you listen to their music, you would understand.
Okay.
I can't keep up with them when it comes to that. But I write the lyrics and a lot of the melodies and everything. So it's a fun time. It's a
Yeah.
good group of dudes.
That's super cool that you can kind of diversify your portfolio, as they say.
Yeah.
I think that I just had this conversation with a friend not too long ago about how when we were younger and you're in high school or even college,
Yeah.
and you get hooked up with a band, you feel like almost this monogamy that you
Yeah.
can't work with other people and you got to be with this one thing. And like, I think it's so healthy to just kind of spread the butter on the bread all the way to the edge. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what we have to do as musicians too, right? Like I think rarely, like I don't know anyone personally who is able to just like do music off of their one personal project or their one thing that they've devoted their time to. But also I think it just makes us well-rounded musicians to play with other people. And like there are times when it's like what I'm working on is all about my vision and what I want. And there are lots of other times where I'm like serving the musical vision of other people. And I think that being able to do both is really important.
yeah, it's so fun to see that stuff too. Like, I hope you share all the stuff that you're
Yeah.
doing in the socials because I want to hear it all. Um, I find that to be very admirable, and I feel that way very strongly about Charlie's career too.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like that dude he just is, like, doing what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And, like, I've been along for the ride. I remember being in college, and I'm in my, early 40s, but I just remember, like, hearing like, playing foosball in somebody's house, in Salisbury, Maryland, and hearing, like, his duo record, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What is this?" There's, like, Latin grooves and then like, so, "Oh, you like that?" And then they put on Naughty Dread, and I'm like, "What the heck?" Like, and then years later, you hear all the other stuff that he's done, and you're just like, How does someone reinvent themselves every single record?" Like,
It's
ha
unreal.
I mean, it sounds like you're doing the same thing, though, like, you're doing
Huh.
what the muse is striking you know what I mean? Like, for each project that you're doing, I
Yeah.
would say.
Oh, well, I appreciate you saying that. I guess I haven't quite thought of it that way, but um yeah, I think again, going back to just working with other people. And because if it were just up to me, it's not like I would be writing in all of these different genres and like making all of these different albums. It's like people, a lot of times what'll happen is I'll have friends approach me and say, I have this idea. And I'm like, shoot, okay, let's try it. So yeah,
Nice.
it's
That's
like the greatness of other people rubbing off.
Yeah. How often are you gigging right now? Like, as far as, like, are things picking back up post-pandemic world or
I know. We definitely have not reached where we were pre-COVID, but we're working on it, and I'm really hoping to do more in 2023, but we'll just see what happens. All of the people that play in my band, like we all have jobs outside of it, so that's kind of nice to know that um, we're not gonna starve if we're not gigging. But
Mhm.
I like we've had gigs the past couple of weekends, and it feels really good, especially with this album, to share this album live. Like, um, yeah, it's like a really special experience. So I'm excited to do more of that.
That's awesome, Tori.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me how, because so I wanna know I find this very interesting for people who think are brilliant singers and have so much control over their voice. But how do you take care of your voice? Like, what's your voice health like in terms of like, so when you do go to sing one of your tracks, like, you know, your optimal Tori?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I
I'm gonna tell you this after I blew my voice out this past weekend, unnecessarily so. But I'll just tell you, in an ideal world, this is what I try to do. One, if you didn't know, your hydration, and this is just in general, but also for your vocals, it's not like I could drink this whole thing of water right now and my vocal cords would still be dehydrated because I didn't drink any water 2 days ago. So I have been trying, especially like if I know I'm going to be singing, which I am pretty much weekly at this point. So just staying hydrated is really important. I have actually scheduled out practice times, so I know when I'm rehearsing with my band. I know when I'm rehearsing on my own, because what was happening is I was overdoing it all the time, and this was like, well, this was probably right up to COVID. My voice would be gone like every other week. So I think keeping a schedule and knowing this is when I'm practicing, and if I have a rehearsal heavy week, I will not be like for funsies singing or recording this week because it just is not the best. So what I found the most is like sticking to my allotted practice time, and then vocal rest is really important.
Right. Do you find that sleep is another thing that is a huge, like, solid sleeper?
Yes, but I'm terrible at getting solid sleep. I'm terrible at it. I'm getting better at it, but my sleep schedule is not great. But if you're a vocalist listening to this, for the love of God, get your rest, get your sleep, do as I say, not as I do.
Do you usually, when you're on stage, are you working with InEars or are you just working on a wedge?
On a wedge.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what setting and which band I'm playing with, but Victoria is on a wedge. And that I think even is like, I like that better, but I will also blow my voice out more and overdo it. One day I'm sure we'll get to in-ear monitors.
They're pretty inexpensive now too. I've been thinking about getting some because it's
Yeah.
like it can save your, like you're saying, it can save your voice.
It can save your voice. Honestly, the thing that's kept me from doing it is just thinking about like having one more thing to set up, which I know is like not even that big of a deal. And I'm also the vocalist, so I'm like hardly ever setting anything up. But
it's a joke about bass players all the time. I'm like, look at that bass player. He just rolls up with his amp and his bass, and then he's like, peace out, I'm done.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. I really should make the move though. Thank you, Mark. This is inspiring.
Well,
steps.
There's some, I mean, I've been looking recently, and there's just like, there's plenty of options and a bunch of my friends that use them. I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere in my office here, but there's some that are relatively inexpensive, and like some of them have like several drivers, and they got them from Amazon, and they're like, dude, I've been using them for like 3 years, never had an issue, kind of thing. So, for a low investment, try it out at least.
For sure.
Because I'm a gear nerd, I'll be honest. Like another portion of this channel as a guitarist is like pedal reviews and amps. I got this new amp that I just got. That's been like my dream amp my whole life. And I'm just like, I'm a nerd, but I got to stop now, Tori. I have to start practicing again and writing again. So
listen, I've never been, I can't even pretend to like, there was a year of my life where I really pretended to be into gear, and not even a year. I didn't make it that long because I was just like, I don't know what we're talking about. But my husband, like I said, is a sound engineer. So like all he ever talks about is gear. And he also built guitar amps for a few years. That was like his thing that he was into. So yeah, maybe you should have him on and y'all can talk gear for an hour.
Yeah. Tell him to hit me up on Instagram. I'd love to talk gear with him. Oh my gosh. Hey, let me ask you really quick. So as far as is the whole record out now?
No,
It's not out yet, right?
3 singles are out, and then the whole record comes out a week from Friday, September 9th, which also, if any local people local to North Carolina are watching this, our album release show is September 9th, 8 p.m. at the Reeves Theater in Elkin, North Carolina.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That's going to be super fun. Are you super pumped?
I'm super pumped.
So you need InEars for that night.
I'm
just messing with
you. I should try, and then I'll say this night is dedicated to Mark.
Don't do that. Nobody wants to hear that. All right. So, and then I got one more question for you, but then we can do our lightning round, get down and stuff.
Okay.
But so, all right. So that record's going to come out, and then what are your plans as far as, are you going to get outside of North Carolina with it a little bit? Are you guys going to try to, like, it's almost like that thing where you drop a pebble in water and you go out to each ring. Are you guys going to try to do that with this record?
We are really going to try, Mark. We're
Nice.
really going to try. We're working with Mongrel Music, they actually do Charlie's booking. And so we will see what happens. We've only ever done everything on our own. Mm-hmm. So it feels really exciting to have a team of people and to just see what happens with it. So
that's awesome, Tori. Hey, if you come to Baltimore and you need some supporting acts, hit me up.
I will
to bring people. And
I've never been to Baltimore before, but I want to go. There's
some cool clubs. There's also there's a club called the 8x10 Club in Baltimore that would be great for you guys. Oh. That's super cool. It's like, have you ever been to, maybe not, but have you ever been to the famous 930 Club in Washington, D.C.?
Mm-mm.
That's an amazing room. The 8x10 is a little bit smaller, probably like 350 people, something like that, maybe 400 people. But it's cool because it has a downstairs where the stage is, and it has like a U upstairs. That has its own bar and stuff, but like it's a cool like U shape upstairs where people can stand above.
Yeah.
It's really intimate. It sounds really good in there. And you know, you can get it pretty packed pretty quick. You know, but it's
awesome.
It's a great venue. You should check that out. And then there's tons of places around town that would be fun to play. But that's like one of the like vaunted venues of Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. I'll write it down.
Do it. All right. You want to do this lightning round get down with me?
Yes.
All right. What we're going to do is I'm going to put a metronome on. It's going to be about 112 BPM. And we're going to do that for a little bit suspense. And I got 10 questions for you, Tori. So these questions are this or that kind of thing. You can explain your answers if you want. I love hearing explanations, but it is not mandatory whatsoever. Okay. You ready?
I think so.
Right, here we go. All right. First question is always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
Okay. Spicy food or hold the spice?
Spicy.
Okay. Puppies or kittens?
Wait, what was the first one?
Puppies.
Oh, I thought you said kittens. I thought you said bees, in which case I would have chosen bees. You said puppies, in which case I still choose puppies.
Okay. Endless summer or bring on fall?
Bring on fall. Bring on fall.
Is the humidity down there as rough as they say it is? Because it's pretty bad here.
Terrible. It's terrible. And I'm done. I'm done with it. That's my explanation.
Okay. Binge a book or a TV show?
Okay. I just have to give you situational. I would choose book if it's like rainy day, alone time, it's my day off and everyone else is doing stuff. If people are around, like I know that people could hang out, a TV show, because then you can talk about what's happening.
Perfect. All right. Big stage or small club?
Big stage.
Okay. Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
All right. Treehouse or pillow fort?
Treehouse.
Okay. Horror movies or pumpkin spice anything?
Pumpkin spice anything. I can't do horror movies.
Okay. All right. And here's the last one, Tori. So this is sometimes the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest.
Okay.
If you can choose one album, one record, does not have to be your favorite album of all time, but if you could choose one record to erase from your memory so you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, which album would that be?
Hold on, can I look at my list really quick?
Yes.
Well, I am running out of time. I'm on a timer.
You're not on a timer. It's okay. Consult your list.
I have a whole list of my favorite ones. Oh my God. Wait, hold on.
I thought sometimes it's the hardest.
Okay. I think I would choose There's Only Being Yourself by Radiant Children. Have you heard that record?
No, tell me more. I have never heard.
It's so good. It came out in 2019, I think. But that record, I think even because of the time I was listening to it in my life, it just it changed everything for me.
Only Be Yourself.
There's Only Being Yourself, I think. Or like some kind of arrangement of those words.
Okay. And what was the name of the band again?
Radiant Children. And I think
Radiant Children.
they're making music anymore, actually.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, but go look them up.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, that record too was a huge inspiration vocally for me for this record that I did with Charlie. So.
Okay. I will check that out.
I regret my answer, but I already gave it to you, so we'll just.
No. What other stuff are you listening to right now? I'm always curious about that.
Yeah, well, right now I'm pretty much listening to all instrumental music. Because I just started college classes back up. I know it's insane, but I'm going back to school, and so I just feel information overload. So pretty much anything that has like space. There's one composer, actually, let me read his name so that I don't get this wrong.
Sure.
Masakatsu Takagi.
Okay. Is it a Japanese composer?
Yeah, and he is he's so incredible. Piano is his main instrument, but you should look up his stuff. It's really, really wonderful. It's not like, well, I don't want to say cheesy, but it's like everything you need.
Okay.
Piano album.
Are you like super into film score stuff too?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I could talk about, I know that we're about to hit an hour already, but oh my gosh.
Well, tell me a couple things, because I'm always looking to listen to new stuff like that. So
okay. So this might not be your cup of tea at all, because it's mostly not anyone's cup of tea, but you know the movie Little Women, the one that came out, I think in 2019, the newest. That score, I don't know how they did it, but it transports me back to my childhood. And so if I'm in like a depressive episode, I will listen to the whole score for that movie is like my go-to. And then I'm really into like going back and listening to, wait, never mind. I won't say that one. But for me, it's a lot about the nostalgia factor of it. So like I listen to that music to be moved to a place that like makes me feel like I'm reliving like a time in my life when I watched the film. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
So I'll go back and listen to like a lot of the movies that I watched as a kid, and I'll listen to those soundtracks, and yeah.
It's just like aromatherapy. It's like there's songs. Yeah, there's songs that I hear that put me right back into my Geo tracker in high school. You know what I mean?
It is crazy how it can just like, it really can just in an instant like take you back there.
Yeah. I love that stuff. I mean, I have the original Superman score on vinyl.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, it's awesome. And my kid last night, my wife was doing something to my kid, and she was like a little worried. So she's like, "Daddy, can you hold my hand?" And then I was like, "Hey, let's do this. I'll hum a film score. I'll hum a melody from a score, and you need to tell me what movie it's from." So like we do that stuff all the time.
Oh,
Yeah. So to distract her or whatever. But yeah, and she's pretty good. I mean, like she's got her Jurassic Park and her Star Wars based stuff down like that.
I love that. So see, now you have the musical family now.
That's
You-
true. That is true. I have
Now
not thought of
you're
that.
the musical dad with the musical family.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. She's about to take vocal lessons for the first time. So she went in, we did like my buddy runs this music academy thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, bring her in and you can, meet this teacher and, she can do like a free lesson to see if she likes it or whatever. And I heard that girl belting. I mean, she sings every night in the shower. She sings Stevie Wonder and stuff from that movie Sing 2. And
Oh,
so she's got it in her, but she
yeah,
needs to like, she needs to like understand like like it's an instrument
for
that,
sure. For sure.
so I'm like, I want her to learn about chest voice and head voice and mixed and stuff so she can find her instrument.
How old is she again?
She's 11.
Okay, yeah. I started taking voice lessons around 12, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait. But that's so sweet. I never thought about that. Here's somebody said, "Hi from California. Thanks for the great interview and new music. This is amazing." So,
Oh, thank you, Joel.
yeah. So,
Thank
Tori, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure hanging out and talking with you.
having me. What
I
a
wish
what day is today? Tuesday evening.
Yeah, totally. I so appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but success. I really, you deserve it, and I hope everything goes amazingly well with this new record. I hope you guys get on the road and play it for people and get it in their ears. And yeah, I mean, it's just everybody needs to hear it. It's great. It grooves its butt off. So
It does groove its butt off.
it does. All right, everybody. Oh, and Tori, tell everybody where they can find everything before we head out.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're on social media, you can follow me on any of the platforms at Victoria Music. It's all Victoria Music. And then my website is victoriamusic.com. YouTube is again Victoria Music. And the album will be out on all streaming platforms on September 9th.
Yes.
Woo!
All right, everybody. Tori, you can hang 1 second, but everybody else, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
Bye.